She called me too sensitive when I asked her why she still follows her ex. So I stopped asking, and started observing. I'm not the jealous type. At least, I never thought I was. I believe in space, respect, and trust. I don't go through phones. I don't question what you wear. I don't text you every 5 minutes asking where you are or who you're with. I'm chill. Or I used to be. Until her. We'd only been dating for about 4 months when I noticed it. She was still following her ex. Okay, cool. I follow some exes too, no drama. But she didn't just follow him, she liked every photo he posted. Reacted to his stories. Commented occasionally with laughing emojis. And he returned the favor. I didn't say anything the first few times. I brushed it off. Maybe they were just cool. Not every ex has to be an enemy, right? But then came the late-night texts she'd laugh at and refuse to show me. The times she'd smile at her phone and say, "Oh, it's just a friend." And her phone was always turned down whenever we were together. Still, I kept it to myself. Until one night, lying on her couch, she was scrolling Instagram, and I caught a glimpse of his name pop up again. Another like. Another heart. Another "LOL you're too much" comment from her under his reel. So I asked. I didn't accuse. I didn't yell. I didn't even sound upset. I just said, "Hey. Do you still talk to him?" She didn't even look up from her phone when she replied, "You're being too sensitive." That was it. Not an answer. Not reassurance. Not even the decency to make me feel seen. Just a quick deflection and a sigh like I was annoying her. And in that moment, something shifted in me. I didn't push. I didn't argue. I stopped asking. And I started observing. After that night, something inside me changed. I didn't bring it up again. I didn't want to hear the words, "You're too sensitive," one more time. Not because they hurt, but because I started to believe them. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe I was just being insecure. Maybe the past really didn't mean anything anymore. But you know what's funny? When someone starts making you doubt your gut, you don't stop feeling it, you just stop trusting it. And that's dangerous. So I became quieter. More observant. I started noticing the things I used to brush off. Like how her phone would never leave her hand. Even in the bathroom, it went with her. Or how she changed her passcode and didn't tell me. How she started sleeping facing the wall. With her phone pressed between her hands like a secret. One day, I glanced over her shoulder while she was on Instagram. I didn't even mean to, she was just scrolling openly. And there it was. Her ex posted a gym selfie, and she liked it with a fire emoji. That's when I made the decision. No more questions. No more hints. No more waiting for her to be honest. I was done asking. I wanted to see it for myself. I never wanted to go through her phone. I hate that stuff. It always felt like crossing a line, like if you have to snoop, the trust is already gone. But what do you do when your heart is screaming louder than your pride? So one evening, she left her phone charging in the kitchen while she took a shower. It buzzed a message from someone saved as J. J was her ex's name. I stared at it for a few seconds. My palms were sweating. I felt like a criminal, like I was doing something wrong. But my gut wouldn't let me walk away. I opened the message. I still think about that night sometimes. Crazy how you moved on so fast. And her reply, sent minutes before the shower. Don't. You'll make me feel guilty again. Again? I kept reading. There were messages from weeks, even months back. Flirty banter. Inside jokes. Late-night check-ins. Nothing too explicit, but it was too much to be harmless. She never told him to stop. She never mentioned me. She never set a boundary. In fact, it almost felt like she missed him. That was the part that broke me. Not the messages themselves, but how easy it was for her to be that person with him, while I got cold responses and silence whenever I tried to be vulnerable. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I sat on the edge of her bed while she dried her hair, laughing at some TikTok. I really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the woman I loved. I saw a stranger who was still emotionally sleeping in someone else's bed. The next morning, I woke up before her. I sat there, watching her sleep like it was the last time I'd ever see her this way. Peaceful. Innocent. A lie wrapped in soft skin and slow breaths. I wasn't even angry. I was just empty. Still, I needed to hear her say it. I needed to know if there was any truth between us left at all. So I asked again. Softly. Do you still talk to him? She opened her eyes, blinked a few times, then smiled like I just told her good morning. No, she said, stretching. Why? I gave her a long look. No judgment. Just a quiet stare. Then I said, because I read your messages last night. Everything changed in an instant. She sat up. Eyes wide. Then narrowed. You went through my phone. That was her reaction. Not guilt. Not remorse. Not even surprise. Just offense. That's so disrespectful, she snapped. You clearly don't trust me. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because. How did we get here? I trusted her enough not to check for months. I gave her space. I silenced my gut. And the moment I finally see what my instincts were screaming about, I'm the villain. She got up, grabbed her hoodie, and stormed into the bathroom, slamming the door. I just sat there. On her bed. Looking at the dent in her pillow. Wondering how long I'd been sleeping beside someone who was emotionally somewhere else. We didn't talk for 2 days. She texted once, I need space to think. Funny. I'd given her space since day one. Space to be honest. Space to let go of the past. Space to choose me. And she used every inch of it. To stay emotionally tied to him. I didn't beg. I didn't call. I just let the silence grow. Then on the 3rd day, she showed up at my place. Eyes red. Voice soft. I messed up. She admitted to still talking to him. Said it was harmless. Said she didn't mean to hurt me. That she didn't think it mattered because he had moved on too. But when I asked her the one question I'd been avoiding. If he asked you to try again, would you? She didn't answer. She just looked down. Then said, I don't know. And that was my answer. Right there. After everything, after all the moments, all the talks, all the time I poured into us, I was still second place in a race she claimed was over. So I let her talk. Let her cry. Let her explain. And when she was done, I let her go. Not out of anger. Not to make a point. But because I finally realized. I was in love with a version of her that only existed in my hope. It's been 3 months since she walked out of my apartment. I haven't heard from her since. No texts. No calls. Just silence, the kind that's not loud or angry, but the kind that slowly teaches you how to breathe again. The first few weeks were brutal. Everything reminded me of her: my couch, my playlist, even the way the hallway smelled after it rained. But day by day, her ghost started fading. Not because I stopped loving her. But because I started loving me more. I used to think closure came from a final conversation, a confession, or some grand apology. But sometimes closure is just accepting that you gave your all. to someone who wasn't ready to receive it. And that's okay. I'm not bitter. I don't hate her. I honestly hope she finds whatever it is she's still looking for. But as for me, I'm done shrinking myself to fit into someone's maybe. The next time I give my heart, it'll be to someone who doesn't need to be convinced to choose me, someone who doesn't hold on to their past while promising me a future. Because I deserve to be someone's peace, not their backup plan. It's funny, isn't it? How we spend so much time trying to hold on to things that were never really ours to keep. I used to think love meant fighting for someone until they saw you as enough. But now I know, real love is about knowing when to stop fighting and when to let go. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you forget the memories or the laughs or the late-night talks. It just means you stop living in the past, and you start living in the present with or without that person. I still think about her sometimes. I'll hear a song we used to love, or I'll pass a cafe we went to, and the memories come rushing back. But now, I don't chase them. I let them be. Just pieces of the story that no longer define me. I've learned to trust myself again. To believe that I'm enough without anyone's validation. To believe that if I give my heart, it should be to someone who sees it not just as a part of their story, but as their future. I don't know what her life looks like now. Maybe she's with him, maybe she's still figuring things out. I'll never know. And honestly, I don't need to. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace. I'm whole again. And that's what matters. I didn't lose her. I gained myself. If you've ever been in a situation like this, where you feel like you're giving your all to someone who doesn't see you for who you truly are, let this be a reminder. You're not too sensitive. You're not too much. You're worthy of being loved in a way that makes you feel safe, seen, and valued. If they can't give that to you, then walk away. Your peace is worth more than holding on to someone who doesn't see it too.